What's up, everybody? It's Local Music Monday. We live and direct from Disruption Network Studios. You can follow along on Facebook, you can follow along on Twitch, and you can also follow along on YouTube. Thank you to my sponsors. If not for the sponsors, this podcast isn't possible. I got to give a big shout out to Eddie Alsheimer over at EJA Moving Services. That is an incredible man, and he has a great service over there. If you're ready to move and relocate, hit up Eddie at 315-335-0516 or hit him up at ejamoving.com. You want a good meal this week? Go check out Joey's at 307. It's 307 Mohawk Street. Give him a call today for some reservations. 315-864-3527. Thank you to my friends over at Utica Coffee. Saranac Brewery. Don't forget the Big Mo Show. 2 nights of Mo this weekend, Friday and Saturday over in the courtyard at the brewery. So make sure you get your tickets. I know the 2-day passes are going quick, so if you want to go both days and you want 2-day passes, you better hurry up and get them. Shout out to Ballsy, ballwash.com. Use promo code members only for a 15% discount. Big shout out to Chillin' with Rick. I'll be on his show coming up this week, really soon. I think it's Thursday. I got to check my calendar, but I think it's Thursday I'll be on his show. And also a new sponsor to the show, and I got my guest in the house with me today, my good friend Michelle Truett. Levitt Amp Music Series. It's a summer concert series that happens at Copernic Park in downtown Utica every Monday. It starts at about 5:30, and you can check out LevittAmpUtica.org for more information. And it is kicking it all off next week, right?
Next week.
Next week is the big day. I'm
2
sorry.
weeks.
I'm
Don't
sorry.
scare me.
I'm sorry.
Holy heck.
Listen, I didn't even know today was Monday. All right. So you can't count on me to figure out what day it is. But yeah, wow.
June
it's
19th.
Here.
We're kicking off on Juneteenth. So we're part of that 5-day. I thought you were coming over here to sit. I'm sorry. That's why I wasn't ready for you. Like, all right, we doing it.
Yeah, like Merv Griffin.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm over here, Michelle. Hi.
Oh, here we go. I'm ready now. I'm ready for you.
All right.
So we're part of a 5-day Juneteenth celebration that starts on Thursday night, and it culminates all at the first Levitt Amp Music Music Series concert on Monday. I'm excited.
Michelle, you've been waving the flag for this concert series for how long now?
Yeah, we've had it this is our 7th live season, so we've technically had it for 8 years.
Yep.
It's so the Levitt Foundation is a family foundation based out of Los Angeles. So we are one of 33 cities now across the country that are awarded $30,000 a year to have 10 free live concerts in our communities. So it's kind of a big deal, and it's nationwide. Their mission is to strengthen the social fabric of America through the power of free live music.
I love it.
So we take out all the barriers. You don't have to travel. You don't have to do hotels. There's no ticket costs. There's no, expensive water and food and White Claws, to buy. It's we take out all the barriers so the people have access to high caliber music.
So the Levitt family, I take it, right? Is
Yep,
that
the Levitt family.
Levitt family, were they musicians, or what's their background?
No, actually, Mortimer and Mimi Levitt. So Mortimer was an immigrant, and his dad had this little cart that he went out to Coney Island and sold little trinkets and things like that and hair clips. And Mortimer would go sometimes with his dad, and they were too poor to afford the ticket prices for the venues. So Mortimer, as a little kid, would sit outside, and he would just enjoy the music of what he could hear. So he dropped out of school when he was 16, which was pretty common at the time, back then. And he ended up getting into department stores. So he had a department store empire. And he had, I think, 80 different stores across the country. When he was in his 90s, he sold it. And that is the money that funds the foundation. But him and Mimi worked for the Met. So they were both into art. They had very differing loves of styles of art. But they were married, and they would summer up in Westport, Connecticut. So in the 1970s, Westport had a space that they were trying to turn into a music venue. It was kind of a public space that had been, unloved and left behind. So they were the largest personal donation at $25,000. And the first night that they came out there of the first concert, they had named it the Levitt Pavilion. So Westport, Connecticut is the OG Levitt Pavilion, just about 4 hours from us.
So this has been going on for 40 plus years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And they have, he made sure that he had this like Coney Island-esque little archway put in there, and he made sure that everybody could enjoy that music for free because he had fallen in love with music at such a young age and couldn't afford it. So they have, I believe it's 8 permanent pavilions with a couple in the works now in larger cities. So we're talking like Arlington, Texas. They're in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. There's one in Connecticut, Los Angeles, or Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Denver. So those are large ones that have big populations. So about, I guess we're at 9 years ago now, they were getting a lot of calls from small to mid-sized cities and saying like, hey, we want this too. So the Levitt Amp program was born in 2015. So AMP stands for Amplify Music and Place. and it's for small to mid-sized cities like us in Utica. We're pretty much, there's some that only have like a few thousand. You know, we've got amp cities from Florida to Alaska. We have one in Hawaii this year for the first time, up to Dog Mountain up in Vermont, which is a beautiful venue, Rhode Island, all over the place, Wisconsin, Kentucky. So we've got friends in all sorts of different places with all sorts of different makeups for their communities that throw concerts in conjunction with us. So they're doing it all year, all over the place. It's amazing.
The pavilions that are built, what's the capacity on them? Are they all different size?
They're all different size. They're pretty large.
Yeah.
You know, they're getting thousands of people. They're getting some great Grammy Award winners, and we get them too. You know, but the larger ones program like up to 100 things per year. They're year round. They're kind of standalone. They have their own board of directors, and the AMP program is a little bit smaller. But we have a 3-year grant. It used to be that we would have to go for this grant every year, and you've been alongside with me in getting people to vote for us. They want to see that the community wants this in their community pretty much, and that we have buy-in.
Yeah.
So this year is the first time that we know we have 3-year funding, which is great because then we can tap into some different grants and sponsorships and opportunities that we couldn't before because we never knew we had it. We would like go voting in November, and then December is the only month where, you know, Gia and I really get to lay back and relax a little bit because that was usually the voting time, and we were waiting, and then January hits and we're getting ready for summer already. So it's a year-round effort with a tiny, mighty team of just a few of us.
So you don't have to chase the votes anymore.
We don't have to chase the votes.
For the next couple of years.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, hopefully. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's it. So we're coming up on our 7th season. We've had 60 concerts, 60.
Yeah.
We have had like tens of thousands of people who have come out to enjoy free music. We were getting, in 2019, right before the pandemic, we were averaging about 770 people per week. And a couple of those weeks were up near 900. And we had one who we're having back this year who was our largest concert at just over 1,000. So that little park, like one of the prerequisites for the grant is that you have to have an underutilized public space that can be activated through live music. So Copernic Park was just, I have before and after pictures. It's just amazing. Those two streets, Park Ave and Genesee Street, have a very high amount of vehicle traffic.
Indeed.
Probably like 9,000, 10,000, I think, on either street during the day. But it also, Oneida Square has a really big pedestrian traffic. So Copernic Park had this little like trodden dirt path that literally was made by people walking from Park Ave to Genesee Street all day long. So that path is gone. So we have like rejuvenated it. There's a couple of permanent art projects in there now because what we're doing, the Levitt Foundation is a creative placemaking funder, right? So what we're doing is creative placemaking just by having the concerts there and activating the space and bringing the joy and bringing the activity. But then also creative placemaking is how are you making that space better than when you found it. So there was a Centro bus shelter there that we did a ridership study and it wasn't highly used, so we were able to move that out. We worked with the city. The city's been a partner since day one, so they helped us get new sidewalks and they paved the road in Eagle Street and stuff, so it looks like $1 million, and the grass is grown in beautifully, and it's a place for, Dietra Harvey is one of my good friends, and we do a lot of projects together, and I remember we had Juneteenth last year. That was our first concert as well. It was a Monday. She texted me on a Tuesday, and she was there at the daycare doing some work, and she goes, Michelle, I just stepped out at the park, and I can still feel it. And I'm like, that's great. Like, you can feel the space. Like, I don't know, there's joy and activity and love and collaboration and community and all those great things that feeling resonates long after the bands are gone.
Were there other options for venues as far as
we
like
were
parks
supposed in the very beginning? The grant was for doing it at the Rucker Mansions on Rucker Street in conjunction with Landmarks
on the front lawn there.
Yeah, which was nice, but there was some issues with the amount of electricity you'd have to bring in to do these things and a couple other little things. But I'm so glad we landed where we landed because the audience has grown and the awareness of the concerts have grown because there is so much traffic. And it's almost like an unexpected little thing that pops up where people are like, oh, I'll pull over. Let me go check that out.
Yeah,
What's going on there? And we're contributing when you're doing consistent activation of something and people know, like our job is to make it a destination, an arts destination. And Oneida Square is a challenged neighborhood for a couple different reasons. We've got Munson Williams though right across. They're our rain date location. Munson, sorry, I did it. I said Munson Williams. They're just Munson now.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
I didn't know
Rebrand.
that.
You didn't read it?
No.
Yep, just Munson. So they're our rain date location. So
what happened to Williams?
Nothing. It's the history is still there. But they just rebranded a couple months ago.
Gotcha.
But again, we're in the 2 census tracts that are on either side, right over, like, starting with West Utica and Cornhill there's some of the highest poverty rates. There's, all of those things that needed to go into the grant. We check all the boxes. So we're able to give, that's the beautiful thing of our audience. You've got people from the neighborhood that are able to come over by car, by walking, by bringing strollers, by whatever, and have this space. And then you've got people coming from the suburbs and, parking and coming in. So every time, like, I spend a good 5 minutes at every concert, and I just sit back and kind of watch everything going on, because that's what makes me keep going with it. That brings me joy with it, is seeing people interact. And it's people that are not in your everyday social circles. So
Right.
all the DEIB work, EDI, DEI, whatever you want to call it, diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, things that have come to the forefront in the past couple of years. My challenge to folks is that start putting that into action. It's wonderful that you've read the things you've read and are getting more aware of things that are going on in the world. But the way to be around people who don't look like you, who aren't in your social circles, you already have the common denominator of that you love music, love community, love being outdoors, right? We put that all together for you to have this amazing 360-degree experience.
It is very diverse. You can have like a country act, and you can see all walks of life checking out whatever.
Sure.
Each and every week it's that way.
Yeah.
It's amazing. What else is amazing is how many amazing artists you've had throughout the years now. They're like Danielle Ponder comes to mind.
Oh my God, stop. Whenever I hear her name, I get goosebumps.
I was just with her actually in Florida a couple weeks ago.
Were you really?
Yeah. She
Oh my
played
God.
on Brandy Carlisle's festival that we were all working
Yeah.
at. And I was like, and she kept on shouting out Rochester, New York, because she's
Yeah.
from Rochester.
Yep.
And
That's amazing.
I mean, she's gone on to do some amazing things.
Yeah. When she performed with us, it was 2021. So it was the concert right after COVID year. It was our comeback concert series. And it rained that night, and we had to go inside of Munson. And I couldn't have picked a better artist to go inside, because it's a different feel when we go in there. It's a little bit more intimate. And her voice transcends. And she left the concert that night. We get done usually about 9 o'clock or so, and she went back to Rochester because she had to work the next day. She worked in the public defender's office.
Oh, wow.
She's a lawyer. So she's been in the public defender's office for a long time. She's got, you can look at her website and get the great story as to how her journey led to that. And shortly after, she quit her job and went music full time. And she has been blowing up. I'll have on Queen Sugar, I had on Alaska Daily, like these TV shows, and all of a sudden I was like, that's a Danielle Ponder song. Like, she's getting plugged into these major networks and these major things, and she is on tour everywhere. And I've seen her 3 times, 4 times now, and she gets better and better and better. And I follow her on Instagram, and you can just see the audiences growing and the likes growing, and it's amazing that we got to know her. And
Oh, you're part of the
around her.
growth, though.
Oh my gosh.
You're a part of her growth.
It's just wonderful. She's great.
Yeah, there's so many great acts. Last year, my favorite was the Big Takeover.
Yeah.
Those guys rocked.
They were fun.
Yeah, they had to go inside, too.
They
That
were
was inside
inside.
Munson, but awesome band.
Yeah.
And they're a big festival band. They're out playing at all the festivals all summer long. And,
They've been everywhere.
Yeah.
Sammy Ray and the Friends was a huge one for
and
us,
they're
too.
still blowing up.
They're crazy. I looked out at the audience. Gia and I got up on the stage at the end of the night, and we're like, where are y'all from? There was like 20-somethings and college kids from all over the place. We talked to a dad who was from Watertown, and he said, my daughter asked me to go to this thing. And he goes, oh, it's free? He's like, all right, I'll take the ride. And they came down, they had dinner, they went to the concert. He was like Dad of the Year. It was like a win-win for everybody. But it's pretty cool. There's people that night that came from Rochester, Ithaca.
Yeah, they have a huge following.
They're coming, you know. Samara Joy, who performed with us, we found her on a little viral video on Facebook and looked into her, and she was at SUNY Purchase. She went to school there, and I think she was 19 or 20 at the time. She came and sang with us. She had one accompaniment, and she just won 2 Grammys. And she is blowing up, and she's so young. She's maybe 22 now. She was a lovely human, a beautiful voice, and like, look at her rise now. And you saw her for free in Utica, you know?
So what's the process of picking these artists?
So the headliner bands, we do have a checklist. They do have to go through the foundation and get approval. So first and foremost, they've got to be professional musicians, right?
Through the LA Foundation?
Yeah, the LA Foundation reviews and approves our headliner lineup. We can do whatever we'd like with the local openers, but the headliners do go through a litany of checklist. So they have to have original music. They have to be professional musicians. They have to go on regular tour. They have to have a web presence, and they have to, pretty much make money as artists. They don't want us spending like tons of money for our nephew who's got some, garage band going. They're like, hey, we'll pay you a ton of money and get on there. So they really, and our lineup has to have diversity in as many senses as you can figure it. So we've got, bands that have a female lead or a male lead. They are from all sorts of different geographical backgrounds, ethnicities, races, genres of music. So you see our genres are all over the place, which makes it so cool. And they're surprising. And when we partner a local opener with it, and sometimes it's like, oh, you'd never think to put those two together, but we're going to have a good night, So it's really cool. And Levitt everybody asks Gabriella Marcassani, we call her Gia. She books our bands, and she is wonderful at it. She's been doing it for probably the last 4 seasons, and the bands and the agents and stuff, the Levitt network is known. It's a nationally known network. It's that perfect one for those bands on the way up, where they're not doing big, huge venues, but they're growing and they could route and do a bunch of Levitt. So
especially on a Monday, too. Because it's tough for any band to find a gig on a Monday, especially if they're out on tour.
Right. So we luck out like crazy because we're the only ones in the network that have concerts on Mondays. So we can get them, especially we're between New York and Toronto, and they're going out sometimes to like Ohio way, or they're going south. Like we're right there, and they can pick up a Monday concert, and it works for our community, which is really nice. Like Thursdays, of course, we're owned by Saranac Thursdays for so long. You don't want to mess with Thursdays. And then here, our summer's so short. Everybody's going up to camp, and Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Plus, we like to have a life. So, some of our sister cities, they're doing concerts every Sunday or every Friday, every Saturday. It's hard to do, vacations and have some of that downtime to have to feed your personal well-being too. So Mondays are an awesome start to the week. I love it.
Do you guys route amongst each other throughout the sister series?
Yep. Especially with our good friends out in Woonsocket, Rhode Island. We're constantly in contact with her. St. Johnsbury,
a 4-hour
Vermont.
ride or so?
Yeah. That's it. Straight, easy. There's one there's a Levitt in Trenton. There's one now in Delaware and Maryland and West Virginia, which is really close to the Maryland one. So all on the East Coast, we lock in.
So we're the only one in New York?
We're the only one in New York.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're really good. There's 3 in Wisconsin and 3 in Kentucky. A lot of the other states just have one kind of splattered about. But yeah, we're the only ones in New York State to have this. And it is national funding. National bands, high caliber music, it's a big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal.
I love it.
It is a big deal. And you can tell it's a big deal when you go down there and just see the crowd and people are into it. And, a lot of times, and Utica has that mentality where it's like, oh, if I don't know who they are, I'm not going to go. But it's not like that on Monday. They just know there's going to be free music. There's going to be highly entertained.
Yeah.
And they're just going to go and show up no matter who's playing.
And try it out, people.
Right.
It's free. What do you got to lose? I'm always telling the audience that. Even if you don't think you like bluegrass, have a curiosity about bluegrass and come check it out because it's free, right? And people around you are going to like it. It's about the vibe. It's about being amongst community and stuff, Even if you don't like hip hop, we've got the B Twins coming back this year. So they're the fusion of instrumental and hip hop and pop and energy. They're ridiculous. Even if you don't like hip hop, you're going to love that because they put that cool twist on it,
Yeah.
Funky Dogs are coming, so they're doing some of the popular music and funk and soul, but with horns, just come have a good time. It's just also we need well-being, right? We keep going back to that. It's after the pandemic. I think we were one of the first, if not the only one maybe to come back that summer after 2020. And be a public space where we could spread out a little bit and you can start getting back into public life if you were ready for it, right? So we took that responsibility very, very hugely in 2021 that we were bringing public life back to people and putting musicians back on the stage. It was a weird time.
Yeah.
It was a weird time. Up until 2 weeks prior to our opening, about this time, we were ready to, you see all those parks that were doing the chalked out circles or squares and gridding out their space so that everybody had their own little like chalk pod thing on a lawn.
4x4 box or whatever.
Man, I measured that park upside, downside, figured out exactly how many people we could have there. There were so many things we didn't know that we could do. And then the mask mandates and things were lifted like 2 weeks prior to our start date. So we're like, all right. And we just like made the soft message to say like, it's okay to come back if you're ready. You could sit far away from people. We had, there's a lot of room to spread out, and people needed it, and it was lovely. It was a great responsibility we had. It was a great honor that we had to be able to bring live music back to people.
It took a while for the whole concert industry to come back as a whole, and I think this is the year that it's really going to be back full speed again.
Yeah, I feel
even
it.
last
I
year.
see it.
Even last year was like a down year for.
Yeah.
Talked to all my promoter buddies and bands that I'm friends with, and just everybody had a down year last year.
Yeah,
and obviously 21. Nobody was really doing much in 21. So I think this is the year, as summer gets going.
I think time will tell. Like, that's another part of our grant is, we have this, all the things behind the scenes. People are like, oh, why do you get to do this and pick the bands? I want to pick the bands. I was like, all the other things that have to be done outside of here. Are you kidding me? So there's, grant reporting that we have to do, and we have to take crowd counts a couple times a night at every concert. So we have we've got data that goes back. We have data showing how much of economic impact our concerts have for downtown Utica in particular, putting about $23,000 back into downtown Utica,
weekly,
where we're paying for printing for the season. Yeah, where we're paying for hotels, food. Our bands are eating here, our bands are staying here, and we're putting that into our budget. We're buying our T-shirts locally, we're buying our printing, like all of that stuff. So about $23,000 back into, and it's. With concerts, like bands it's expensive to bring them in. And as we keep going and keep growing, it gets pricier and pricier.
It's getting more expensive.
Very, very. And a lot of them need the instruments, and they need their backline and stuff like that because they're not traveling with it, or it's a little more difficult. So it's a lot. It's a lot to throw these things in. 10 weeks is a lot. It's a lot on the team too.
I want to back up though and talk about how do you figure out how many people are there in attendance? I mean, are you out there counting every person?
Yeah, we do crowd counts twice a week. Caroline Williams is pretty darn good at it. But usually we have
a designated job.
yeah, it's a designated volunteer job. So we have 2 people that will count. And then they'll meet up with each other and say, "What'd you get? What'd you get?" And ironically, they're pretty similar, and we kind of take an average.
Wow.
So yeah. 2021 though, we were down. 2022 we were like only slightly up, but what we saw 2021, like the families weren't coming back and the kids weren't out so much. The kids came back, the families came back last year. So like you said, I think this year is going to be I think people's comfort levels are ready to go. We have a lot of stuff and activation at the park too for the kids. They get to do some art, and we've got a couple people who are dedicated to doing the kids art circle this year. So the kids are there and they're getting all the creative fields at once, right? They're listening to music and being exposed to great things and beats and lyrics and people who look different than them, right? All those great things. And then they're sitting there making art. We've got Dave Mentis and Tiana Guzman, who are local artists, who are going to be taking that over and making great experiences for the kids. And then Malik Johnson, Leaky 14, he's on our team this year. He is a wonderful hip-hop artist and a wonderful human being. He's a 5th grade teacher at the Utica Academy of Science. So he's going to be working with us programming our youth intermission acts. And we're also going to try, I tried really hard to do this last year, but we just ran out of resources and time, but I'm going to have a old school station for the kids. So they'll go over and learn from somebody. So they'll have the art, and then they'll come over and learn things like cursive handwriting, Roman numerals,
which is great. I love
clocks,
this. Yeah.
Right? Like how to write a check. We're thinking about how to write thank you cards and address envelopes. Like things I'm seeing with students that I teach throughout the year that, they're in high school. And I was like, all right, let's do thank you cards. And they're like, how do you address that? So we're going to do things like that with the kids at another station throughout the summer, which will be kind of cool.
Cursive writing's a thing that in the past now. Huh?
I love it. No. Oh my gosh.
Nobody writes in cursive
I taught my kid. I was like, no kid of mine will not know how to write cursive handwriting. He's got beautiful handwriting. Beautiful.
I love it. Yeah. I want to throw a big shout out to our boy Joe Finelli.
Come on.
We have to throw him a big shout out because
best.
He is the best.
We couldn't do it without him.
Yeah.
And you know what?
And Elliot.
Joe and his whole team are so into it, and we bring them a lot of stuff, and they buy into the community element of it, So they are, while they're switching over the stage and doing the multitude of things that they have to do every night, they are making sure that our young artists who are performing on Eagle Street have the best experience. Yeah. And, Joe loves to work with up-and-coming artists so that they work with a professional sound crew, right? They're working with us as professional producers. I'm in marketing during the day. Gia is booking bands and just getting amazing at it. So all of those professional skills, these kids are getting that experience, right? And Joe is right there with us. He is like a partner through and through, and I can't say enough about him.
You can't get more pro than Joe Finelli.
You can't get more pro than Joe Finelli.
See, you like that? You like that tag?
Should put that on his tent there. I love it.
He's the hardest working man in the industry.
Truly.
He really is. Yep. Like when he's doing Levitt, he's also doing 5 other gigs at the same time too.
Right.
And you don't even know it because there's like 5 of him.
And you can see his way of doing business, his way of mentoring the younger folks who are working with him and his team. All of them are, like, I don't know if it's the Finelli brand or what it is, but everybody learns the same way, and they're so artist friendly, and they will bend over backwards to make sure the artist is happy with what's going on stage, So he loves the artists, and he loves the venue, the space, the things that we're doing, the community, and it's really something special that we all work on together.
The sound guy never gets any love, so you got to give some love to the sound guy, right? I always say you can't.
He always gets all shy. I was like, let's hear it for Finelli. He's like,
yeah, he doesn't want the attention, but I always say you can't get down without the sound, right?
You can't get down without the sound.
So thank you to Joe Finelli for all he does. I mean, I could call him right now and be like, dude, I need something tonight, and he will show up and do it for me, So he's such a good soul. We're lucky we got him. Let's talk lineup this year because you got a pretty good lineup. I know you've got some fun things happening this year. Let's talk lineup.
It is so exciting.
So Juneteenth, that kicks off. What do you got going on Juneteenth?
So this was a hard one to fill because we had a certain number of bands we were looking at and just things weren't working out for routing and whatnot. I ended up looking at the Levitt Amp Ocala in Florida, their lineup, and they had this band on there that was from Harlem. And I'm like, they sound amazing. So they are the Harlem Gospel Travelers. They are going to be opening for us. They're 3 young guys, and it is gospel R&B. I get goosebumps talking about this stuff. They met at an after-school program for youth when they were kids. It was gospel for teens, and they met through there. And when they aged out, they, how it goes, they met somebody who got into the studio. So they started pretty relatively soon, like not too long ago, but they are like a throwback retro vintage sound of like gospel and R&B from the 60s and 70s.
Oh yeah.
And that is, I think our community is really, really going to love them. We got a couple cool intermission acts that Leakey's working on, and then Amos Donnell is going to open for them, which is great. What I love about Amos is that he's producing these pop-up things and these karaoke nights over at Bag Square Brewing Company, and he loves bringing the community together to love each other and love things through music and just being in the same place together.
He's a beautiful man.
He is so nice and so talented. I love like all the music that he plays. I'm a 90s hip hop and R&B kind of girl, so it's right up my alley. He's bringing some musicians with him, so it'll have a little bit of like depth and whatnot to it. So we're excited to have them open.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's June 19th. I have I've been doing lots of research on the bands, and like we were talking off air before, like we like to find those little nuggets of interesting information on like a odd podcast they did a few years ago, so we do a deep dive and really listen into the bands to see who we might want to connect them with. So second night, which is June 26th, this is our boy coming back who had the biggest audience for us. So Brandon Niederauer, they call him Taz. He's now 20 years old. He came to us when he was 16 years old, and he has been playing the guitar since he was 8. And he is like dubbed the Jimi Hendrix, right? The next Jimi Hendrix. He is a ferocious guitar player. We had 1,000 people at the concert in 2019. If you didn't see him, like now's the time to see him. Don't let him pass you by twice because that's just crazy. He's like that triple threat kind of kiddo. So he plays music, he sings, he's been on Broadway. He was in School of Rock, the musical. And he was on like Ellen DeGeneres when he was 10. He's been on Good Morning America, The View, like all the things. He's just, and he's a lovely kid. And last time his dad came with him, and they're a great family. And, at the end of the day, he's just this teenager with this phenomenal, ridiculous talent. But he struck me as very humble, quiet, cool, and just crushes it on stage.
He's doing big things.
Just don't mess around and miss that one, because you will kick yourself.
I seen him last year at Jazz Fest in New Orleans, and he was all over the place. Like everybody had him come up and play with him, and like you said, he's only 20 years old. Yeah. So last year he was 19 years old. And they were having like this 19-year-old kid. Like I'm talking like Ivan Neville and like the Neville brothers having them come up. Hey, there's Taz. Come on, Taz. Come on up here and play. And like that's amazing. At 19, 20.
He played with Allman Brothers, Lady Gaga. He played with Slash. He's played with the big ones, and he's just he's just so cool. I'm so glad that was our last slot that we had to fill, and Gia and I were like, let's reach out. And typically we don't repeat headliner acts because there's just so many, and we want to diversify the genres and things like that. So typically we don't do that, but we have 2 this year actually that we're bringing back because of the talent, because of the routing and the availability, but also because of the reaction that our audience had to them. So Taz is the first one. Jimmy Wolf will be opening for him, which I think is that's a lineup. That's going to be a really good night. Jimmy played with us a handful of years ago, and he played in our TV show during the COVID year when we didn't have a live concert series. So he is definitely a friend of Levitt. So that'll be a really good night. Going on to July 10th, we're not going to do a concert the July 4th week because we just found everybody, do your thing.
July 4th on a Tuesday, right?
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, the 3rd, everybody's going to be gone and enjoying their time. So, and that gives us a nice little break too, because it's a lot to get to opening night. So Joe Samba, who we're bringing reggae. We haven't had reggae in a really, really long time, and our community loves reggae, and it's not something you get to hear a lot. So Joe is originally from Massachusetts. His voice is just like power butter. It's just so good. It draws you in. And he during COVID, he moved to Key West. And he's like, well, hell, if everything goes and, shit hits the fan, at least I'll have a Corona and my music. And he spent time down there, and then he came back up to the Northeast with his fiance, and he's got a new baby. So he is, he'll be doing reggae. His album in 2019 reached the #1 on the Billboard Reggae album list, which was cool, and had over 2 million streams. So he's probably one I'm most excited for because I haven't heard him live yet, and I think he's going to be great. And he also, I was reading a little bit about him last night, and he talks openly about mental health and about depression that he went through after the pandemic, and he works that into his music. So some of his reggae songs, reggae is usually really happy and go lucky, He works his, some of that into it. So there's a little bit maybe darker side to some of the reggae songs that he does, but I like his quote. He said, I want to let people know everyone feels shitty from time to time. I think that's a great quote. And I work for ICANN during the day. We've got this great mental health stigma campaign going on, and we're using Listen It's Liz from Kiss FM and Nazi and our friend Al Morrow, who's a MMA fighter, and there are mental health ambassadors going out and talking about mental health, everybody has it every day. It's all right to not feel good for a day, So I'm right in the mental health realm, and learning that about Joe Samba was really cool. So hopefully ICANN is a sponsor, and hopefully we can, do some cool things that night with mental health, music. Music brings a lot of people out of a lot of,
it's your
sad
best friend.
blue places. Yeah, you said that. That's in my head always. Music is my best friend. Yeah. And I love that. The Old Main is going to be opening for Joe Samba.
Oh,
so that's one of those you've got some Americana and, folk, and opening up for reggae. That's going to be nice. I think the Old Main, this might be the 3rd time they're playing with us, but they're always a favorite. Great guys, consistent, really, really fantastic. So we're excited to bring them back.
Love those boys.
Then July 17th, we've got the Funky Dogs Brass Band coming over from Connecticut. A couple of the guys were in when you had Sophista-Funk at the Stanley, which was a crazy, amazing, awesome night. Thank you again for that. It was beautiful.
Fun. It was a fun night.
And their horn section goes and plays all over the place. They'll tuck in with Sammy Ray and the Friends, or they'll be with, Dispatch they played for. They'll sell out. They'll be in sold out Madison Square Garden things. Their horn section really is moving and shaking all over the place. So they're right down the road in Connecticut and coming at us. So they do funk, soul. They do today's top hits, with that brass twist. So we always try to have a brass band of some sort. We've had brass bands straight from New Orleans, and those are always a crowd pleaser. And I love the depth of a brass band. There's just so many instruments and sound layers and things like that, and it's just joy. It's really cool.
Tommy rips on the sax. Tommy also plays in Sophistafunk usually.
Yes,
Like I would say he's a part-time player with those guys because he lives in Connecticut, but he's with them a lot.
Yeah.
He shreds.
He was so good that one night.
He shreds.
I love it. I love when they pop in with each other too. Funky Dogs play with Pigeons playing ping pong too. They were like kind of on my hit list for Levitt. I'd love
Pigeons?
to.
Oh, cool.
I'd love to have them one day. And opening for them, we got Handsome Bob.
Oh, cool.
So, like, if you've been to a Handsome Bob concert, like, you know, right? They're going to bring it. But
it's high energy.
What I love about them, and so this is something that, you know, Gia and I always look at when booking the bands. There's a lot of great local musicians. A lot of them have played Levitt, right? But we really gravitate to the ones that believe in the work we're doing beyond the music. The music is the vehicle, the talent we put on stage. It's a no-brainer. It's high caliber. It's awesome. We're professional. But if they are there, like, they stay, you know, and they're partnering with us and liking our stuff. Like AJ is always on it, just like being thankful and sharing our stuff out. And they are supportive of other artists as well in the community. Like we look for that stuff. We look for like what the story is, you know, and if you're supporting other people, it's like we look for that collaboration and that, you know, excitement for just living the music life and living community life. So
AJ Bates is a great ambassador for Utica.
Yep, for Utica, for music, for good things.
But he loves this city so much, and he'll even tell you, and who knows, maybe one day he'll be future mayor.
Yeah.
I always tell him that all the time, like, you're going to be mayor of this town one day. No, I don't want to.
You know, we had our Levitt lineup launch, our lineup launch for the season a couple weeks ago, and he came, and him and Chris Perez came. Chris Perez like threw down some nice music. We had Amos singing. Stephen Phillips, who's another opener, came in from Syracuse, and they were all popping up on stage singing. And Chris threw down some really cool like R&B and all this stuff. What a sweet guy! But you know what? They show up. You know, they come, they are part of our, they're part of our Levitt family. And I literally went up to AJ and reintroduced myself because I didn't recognize him. He shaved his mustache and I didn't even know who he was. And I'm like, hi, I'm Michelle. He's like, yeah, I used to have a mustache. I'm like, oh, dude. It was so funny. But I love that they come. So Funky Dogs and Handsome Bob on the 17th.
It's a great combo. You know, Handsome Bob is one of the...
That's going to be a good one.
See, what happened before COVID, there wasn't like a lot of bands. There was the same old bands locally, but I feel like after COVID, all these new bands have popped up, and Handsome Bob being one of them. And right now, they're just one of the hottest local acts.
Yeah, they're super cool. I can't wait for them. I love them. What are we at? July 24th. So we have Nefresh Mountain Band, Bluegrass. It's a husband and wife. We have actually two husband and wife teams coming. One is blues and one is bluegrass. So these folks, I was reading a little bit more in depth last night, and what I love is that in 2018, they traveled to Eastern Europe. They went to Poland, Ukraine. They have ancestors who were lost in the Holocaust. So they tapped into their Jewish American heritage and are writing a lot and bringing that in. They sing in Hebrew. They dedicate a lot of their songs to those relatives they lost in the Holocaust. They have a song called Tree of Life that was made after the 2018 mass shooting at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh. So it's a beautiful song. And, you know, that's one thing, like bluegrass isn't like my go-to personally. People love bluegrass around here, but that's the thing, like even if you don't think you're going to like it, try it out anyway. I was listening to it for quite a bit last night while I was researching, and her voice, like both of their voices are just like sweet. And I transcend and think about like how they're going to sound at the park on that night of their performance, and it's going to be really, really beautiful. So that's one, you know, don't miss out on bluegrass either. You know, like fun. Definitely check them out. And then opening for them is Otis Monk. So you know them, right?
Yeah, they've been around for a minute.
They've been around
Kent,
for a minute,
right? My buddy Kent Rasmussen.
I know Kent and George personally in it, and there's a whole bunch of other guys. So they are, you know, it's funny when we get the bios, and I was like, "What do you guys do?" And we need to talk about you, you know. And there was like all these great words in there. So like original American band, improvisational, psychedelic, progressive rock, you know, all that kind of stuff. I personally haven't heard them live yet, but I've heard really good things. And Kent's partner, Kristen, works at ICANN with me, so that's kind of how we made that awesome connection. And that's how it works, right? That's how it works.
Good people.
So I am very excited to have them opening for Nefresh, which is going to be great. And then we get to July 31st, last one in July, we have B-Twins coming back. So they were, like, everybody who made that concert last year was so psyched, and the ones who missed it were so pissed because they saw the pictures and stuff after. So these guys, they're Brazilian twins. They're in their early 30s. They grew up in Rio de Janeiro. They had, there was something where they came up to Iowa for a performance or whatnot, and they connected with someone. They went to college in Iowa, so now they live in the States, and they travel all over the place. They were doing some beautiful things during COVID, and they were going to cul-de-sacs or, senior living facilities and stuff, and they were bringing joy and music to people during that really difficult time. So they do that, awesome fusion of instrumental, hip hop, pop, violin, ukulele. It's ridiculous. They come off the stage, they come into the audience, they've got kind of not full pyrotechnics, but they've got some things on the stage, so they really, really put on a show. And they made sure, this again is always, we all talk, right? 33 cities booking all these bands, and we all talk. So when we have a headliner band that comes in, and they come in for their sound check, and then we give them, some money for their cash buyout, and they go eat and relax, and they come back for their performance. These guys left quickly, got dressed, came back, and they went through the audience and they were talking with people and taking selfies. The Children's Museum, Mobile Museum was there, and they went over and wanted to know all about it and wanted to know more about our community and talk to the people. And that right there, I'm like, we're on the phone talking to other Levitt cities, and we're like, look, this is what they do. You got to do it. They're phenomenal. Adam Ezra Group was another one like that, where they, they wanted to know everything about us, and they came down and got the community together at the end of the night, and everybody sang collectively. It was beautiful.
Adam's a beautiful soul. But do they have the two Bs? Do they have a full band?
They have just them.
It's just the two of them?
But they've got, some music and stuff going behind them. It's
Gotcha.
It's a whole seamless show. They throw it. But they're wonderful. And then opening for them is Stephen Phillips. Have you heard him? Have you heard his name? Because now you need to hear his name.
I've heard his name. I haven't seen him.
Where we met him was opening for Danielle Ponder at Funkin' Waffles out in Syracuse.
Okay.
And we're like, this kid comes up and he looks like, kind of a kid from the suburbs. I think he literally had on khaki pants that night or something. And we're like, all right, what's this going to be like? And he's a multi-instrumental player. He was all over that stage, and he started singing, and all of my four girlfriends were like, what the actual hell? He's got this soulful R&B, just groove thing. So he's a solo act, which is also something we normally don't put on stage because it's a big venue to fill, but he is gonna kill it. And again, he came out for our lineup launch, and he met the other openers that were there, and he's so excited. I think he's about 24, so we were momming him, and you can,
is he from Syracuse?
I don't know if he's originally from Syracuse, but he lives there now. He's just a couple blocks from Funkin' Waffles, so cool. He's playing there soon, maybe this weekend or next weekend. So he's just really, he's joy. And I think the Utica community will really like him. So that's Stephen Phillips. And then we've got a band coming up on August 7th. It's Tay and the Neighborly. So they're based out of Wisconsin, and Tay herself has been singing since 2012. So she's going on many years. The band she met, so it was a COVID meetup, and they were all living in the same building, and they all like to bake, and they were going from door to door, borrowing cups of sugar and stuff like that, literally, and then realized that they were all kind of musicians. So Tay and the Neighborly is kind of a new project. Their LP, I think, is coming out very soon. It says summer 2023. So you've got this girl. She's this tiny, beautiful thing with this voice. It's deep and raspy and buttery, and you've got these great musicians with it. So they're going to be kind of that young pop. They designate their sound as soul pop.
Okay.
And really nice. She's got a really, really cool voice. So they got a lot of TikTok followers, so I'm hoping it's kind of a equivalent of Sammy Ray and the Friends, where we get a lot of college kids and, those 20-somethings out, because they seem to be super popular with that crew. And then Miss Jess Novak is coming back to open.
My buddy.
Jess is crushing.
Yeah, I was
Jess
just with her,
could be considered. We were talking with her and with Sydney Irvin a little bit, with the caliber and the the point that they're at in their careers, I think they could really be considered to be headliners in the Levitt circuit, and we'd love to introduce other communities to their sound. So we're going to try really hard to get some good footage and talk to our friends in other cities to get them, on tour in the Levitt circuit, which would be cool.
Is Jess coming solo, or is she bringing Ben?
She's bringing the whole band. So
the whole band.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
So Jess, I saw her for the first time at the what is it called now? It used to be the Palace Theater in Hamilton. It's called. What is it called? For the arts, something for the arts. I did the logo. I can't remember it. We'll think of it.
It's a great spot, though.
The old Palace Theater. And she played this fundraiser, and she was there dressed in one way at the beginning, playing piano, doing cocktail hour. Beautiful, like great voice. And then she went and changed and came up with the band and was rocking the place out.
Yeah.
So I was like, I need to know more about this girl, because when you can be a chameleon like that and do like all the things. But she is ridiculous. She's a new mom, too, which is pretty cool. I hope she brings a baby. I always love seeing kids and pets and stuff like that the bands bring. So Jess will be open up for Tay and the Neighborly. Then we've got, we always have a Latin night. So we're having some trouble actually finding a Latin band to fit into the schedule this year. And the national touring band for Levitt is a Latin band, but it didn't work out where we could get them here. But these guys, Battle of Santiago, they are coming from Toronto. So they're Afro-Cuban sound. They've got some rap. They remind me a little bit of like the Fugees. You've got like singing and the layers of music and a rap interlude and stuff like that. So I'm super looking forward to them. They're a pretty big band. I didn't know that Toronto it's like the largest Cuban expat communities in the world. There's a ton of Cuban people there in Toronto. So they have like that Toronto feel, and they're like really pulling from ancient Afro-Cuban sounds and music and stuff. So they are going to be danceable, super fun, At Levitt, I love where Eagle Street, we shut the street down for the night and it becomes the dance floor.
Yeah.
And everybody is dancing. It's just like, it's a phenomenal thing. The musicians in the stage are up a little bit into Sales parking lot. So it's really a cool venue. There's not like a bad seat in the place, But that's going to be ready to dance.
I'm surprised Toronto has a big Cuban population. You would think they would want to go nowhere near Canada.
Why?
Because it's so cold. Yeah.
I love the snow. Why? They're super nice people and there's beautiful snow.
Everybody is super nice in Canada.
I know, right? So I'm super excited about them. And opening for them is a band called Trump Tight 315. And Trump Tight is a card term for spades, right? So they were coming. Robbie Dancy brought them in all the time for Juneteenth for her event that she had. So I first met them there. Gia helped book a couple things at Munson a couple years ago, and she booked them there, and they had a phenomenal show. So this is another husband-wife team, and they are powerful. It's like some of that good old soul music. It's R&B, really great sound. So I'm excited. I saw on Facebook that they had gone down south for a little bit. I was like, no, not before you get to book Levitt. So they're up here and we got them coming in. And August 21st, we've got Erin Harp and the Delta Swingers. So we have a strong female blues singer coming in. This is another husband and wife team. And she's not just a musician. She's like a multi-band leader, and she is an indie label owner herself. Oh, cool. So they're really into the business of stuff. It was fun. So get this. Her dad is from Utica.
Really?
Got to find out a little bit more about that. Her dad wrote a book on, I got to find it, on Stellar Guitars. He wrote a book about the guitar brand. Her mom was a graphic designer, which I'm a graphic designer, which is pretty cool. So it's just like, I love when there's a creative family and creativity comes out of it. So many of these musicians, when you hear their stories, they're like, yep, my dad was in a band and he'd throw me on the stage when I was like 7. I would do this, So they've been around it their whole lives. And like you said, music is your friend. It's not just a career or a job. It's like your being, right? It's like who you are. So I love when they've got really good in-depth backgrounds of where their musicianship came from. I got to look more into this because I'm not a musician myself, but she's a really in-demand finger-style blues educator. Do you know what that is?
No.
I thought Justin might be here and be able to help determine that, but it seems like a really kind of intricate way of playing the guitar, and so she's an educator as well in the whole realm. So I'm excited to
where are they from?
To bring her in. She is Boston based.
Boston?
Yep. So they're just down the road as well. And
cool.
Nice venue for them. And then Sydney Irving will be opening up for her. Sydney's crushing it.
She is.
She's 19. She's ridiculous. I always, she came to our lineup launch as well, and I love again that she shows up, and I love that she came up to talk to Gia and I, and she's like, so what do you guys think I should put into the set? Like, tell me a little bit more. Like, she's really careful and purposeful with knowing the venue and knowing what we're all about. And she wants to make sure she does like the best. And I love her. And every time I see her, I was like, your social media, your website, your just brand presence overall is on point. And I really think she could also be like, she could blow up and be a national headliner as well.
I agree.
We want to get her on the circuit. Humble, sweet, interesting. She's always taking selfies and just wants to make sure she's remembering all of the memories so well. So I can't say enough about her. She's talented as hell, too.
Very talented.
Like, the band sounds great. She's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So this will be her second time playing with us, which will be really neat. So that'll be a good night. Those are powerhouse female vocalist in one night. And then our last evening, this is a band that Gia has been trying to get here for 4 freaking years. She's
Really?
like, the routing's going all crazy. They are, sorry, I keep hitting my thing. They're directly from Ireland. They got together in Limerick in 2010, just like on a random like jam sesh. And they have traveled all over the world. So they were an Irish rock band called Hermitage Green. And they were recommended to us by some of our friends out in Galva, at Levitt Amp Galva. So they're super exciting. One of them was a international rugby player for Ireland, which is really cool. So they're going to be touring in Ireland. They're going up to Canada, New York City, and then they're coming to us, which I'm really excited about. We've never had an Irish band before at Levitt Amp, so this is great. And then our friends, Blarney Rebel Band, of course. Like, of course, you have to, right?
Yeah.
Like who else would
It's
open for an Irish band? So we're excited to have those guys back again, too. And that's 10 weeks, man.
That's awesome.
That is 10 weeks. That's a lot.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I got a question, though. Bringing some of these bands in from other countries, it's got to be difficult, though, right? There's a bunch of hoops.
Knock on wood. It's funny. I knew you would say that because we talked about that in passing a couple of times. But them and their agents seem to be like smoothing over everything pretty well. Let's hope they, again, knock on wood. But, we'll get some backline for them so they don't have to bring a lot of things over. Mm-hmm. And, if they're already here.
Hey, if they're already here, right.
Exactly.
Awesome.
It's nice if they're already routed and we know that they're playing somewhere else first and then coming to us.
So much
and not
easier.
just coming straight down. We're like, whew, so we don't have to sweat too much. But
Yeah, so much easier.
yeah, that's the lineup. My favorite part as a graphic designer is once Gia has the band together, I go get all of the assets and I get the photos and I put that first collage together. Like, I'm not even making anything in particular. I just throw all the pictures together and I look at the diversity, again, of all the things. There's female leads, there's Latin bands, there's different genres, there's younger kids, there's older women. It is like, that's one of my favorite parts of doing this work is just seeing it all come together.
All come together and everybody having a good time.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Are you going to have any kind of merchandise for Levitt Amp?
We did some shirts last year, and we probably, my team will kill me, but we probably won't do it just because we're a tiny, mighty team.
Yeah.
So, again, if anybody's out there and wants to do some volunteer work or talk to us about, helping out, it's not all the glitz and glamour stuff all the time. Like even putting the bands on the stage, that's the sexy part of it. But there's so much work and so much paperwork and figuring them out and working with Joe to figure what needs to go on that stage to make it the best. There's so much work, right? Mm-hmm. But there's also like somebody's got to do the porta potties and the security and the insurance, right? And all of the marketing and negotiating I do all the fundraising. We have a amazing lineup of sponsors and supporters throughout the years. We've got, partners like the Community Foundation, who's been there day one with us, who is still there. We could not do it without them. And then every year we get more seasoned sponsors and kind of build people up, and there's different tiers. But they come, we bring them out, we give them a great time, we give them some mic time, we give them our local media gives us about, I think we're closing in on like $67,000 in trade media. And, thanks to you for coming on board. Like, we said the other day, like, why did we wait so long?
I can't believe it took us 7 years to do this.
I know. It's just like kind of, G and I were like baby producers. Like, no, Z's like way too smart.
No way.
But no, I'm so glad because, again, it's about the love of music and community and where those things collide,
Exactly.
right? The music is the freaking bonus. But it's about the other work that we do too. So bringing in artists. So again, if there's anybody out there who's really, I'm very careful of who to bring on because they've got to come on for the right reasons.
Right.
And they have to buy into it and love it. And we'll be able to do bigger and better things as we go once we get a little bit more, resources and bodies and stuff like that. And we just need some people to pick things up and put them down and carry things out from storage every night. Like it'll be 95 degrees all summer, and our team's just exhausted. We're carrying sandwich boards and bucket seats and all that. Like it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
I watch Finelli. Like I don't know how he does what he does. It's like musical Tetris. They are the first ones there, the last ones out.
Yep.
There's just so much that goes into their setup of what they do to make it so great for us. It's amazing.
If someone's interested in volunteering, how do they get a hold of you?
Reach out to me through Facebook. What we really need for right now, because we're starting in a couple of weeks, I need groups that will come from like maybe 4:30 to 5 o'clock and help us just carry things out. It only takes about half an hour. It's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And then we'll give you like a little mic time and a thank you and stuff like that. But, if I just need 5 or 6 people each night to carry things out and put them back. I have a couple things in the cooker, but that's really where it is. And then if you're there for the whole night and you're there at the end of the night and you want to help us carry some stuff in, jump in, like that's super helpful too.
I put your Facebook link in this description of the show. So if anybody is interested, they could click on the link right through here and get a hold of Michelle and the crew and help out.
I don't want to work the interns too hard this year. We have 6 young ladies. So this is our 3rd year of the Levitt internship program. So we also use Levitt Amp Utica as a training ground, a creative training ground for youth. And every week at intermission, that's what Leaky is helping program this year, we have a youth performer. So a lot of times they get paid $100 for 10 minutes, and they're either doing, they're dancing, spoken word, singing, musicians, and it's usually a couple, 3 songs, and they a lot of times get their first paycheck as a musician and standing ovations of 500, 600, 700 people right in front of them, right? It's a really cool venue for these kiddos to do that. And the other part of it is that we have Levitine interns. So we put that out, and I got quite a few in this year, and we have 6 young ladies, and they are going to shadow us and learn everything about production and event coordination. We go down to Nancy Ford's studio, and she does a beautiful job mentoring them and talking with them about how to take really great event photography. I've got a young lady who's in the BOCES program. She's going to Fredonia for video, so she's going to work with us and get some video footage and do a little piece for us this year. It's really cool. So they shadow us, and we tell them all the things. Gia talks to them about how she books the bands. Joe tucks in there and talks about like exactly what is sound check, what is he looking for, what is he doing up there, So they get to know everything about running a music festival. I'm really secretly hoping that the internship program turns into a succession plan, right? Like we need people we could have 9 more years of this. We could be up for 3-year grant terms. Mm-hmm. So in 9 years, I'm doing the math, like how old am I going to be? And can I carry a cooler of ice at that point, right? So we're going to need some people to buy in and love this thing like we do. And, that could be maybe we find that person through the interns.
Which was my next question too, is like, how long do you see yourself doing this?
Yeah, it's a good question, Z.
Yeah,
it's a good question. We go year by year.
Year, right.
That Caroline, Gia, and I were the kind of 3 main folks, and we went out to LA. Every year the foundation brings us out to the convening, and we're with our peers all over the country, and they give us amazing resources, like everything we need, whether it's like sample and verbiage for artist contracts, or whether it's DEIB training, whether it's just inspirational speakers that are from just the creme de la creme of whatever their industries are. And we went out there, and I said, like, we're going to spread out, we're going to talk to people, we're going to help mentor some of the new folks. And I said, I want to talk to you guys about why we do this work and what makes you sign up again year after year, right? Because it's like collectively the 3 of us put in about 1,000 hours. I have the whole team keep their number of hours, because then even volunteers, we count how many people are there that night. You put that into your in-kind line item in your budget, and then at the end of the season, we can safely say we're about $250,000 investment in the arts in Oneida Square. And that comes with probably we're in the low 80s, like about $84,000 it takes to throw this, which is not a lot of money to do a 10-week concert series, right? And then we've got, well over probably like $150,000, $160,000 of in-kind. And that is, our time, our services, our talent, the interns, volunteers. The interns do get paid, but they do put a lot of extra time in as well. Everybody who works in a creative field or lends a creative talent to us, whether it's an artist, the bands themselves, it's photographers, videographers, interns, everybody gets paid at Levitt Amp. Printers, t-shirt printers, That's one thing that we pride ourselves on. Because as a graphic designer, I do it because I love it. It's like with music with you, graphic design is with me. It's my best friend. It's been there for me through everything. And I still absolutely love what I do. But I also need to pay my mortgage and my truck payment. So I don't just play around and do things for free, right? So we make sure that, especially the younger folks working with us, that they know that their talent is worth money. Right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Not doing anything for free.
You're not do it.
No, it's good.
Unless you choose to.
Yeah,
That's
unless
cool.
you choose to.
Yeah.
And the volunteer work, of course.
Yeah.
But no, that's great. What you guys do is absolutely awesome, and we're very happy to be a part of it this year. So
Excited. We got to do
we'll
some
be
cool
out there.
stuff. You're welcome down anytime.
Yeah,
We'll
of
get
course.
you on the mic. We'll do some fun things.
I'll do it.
Do you dance?
if you call that dancing, sure.
We'll dance in Eagle Street. We'll have some good food. We're gonna have a few more food vendors this year, which is nice. They're working on a couple of things.
What do you got this year?
We always have Big Poppy's Ices and Gloria's ice cream truck. We have to be careful because the venue is so small that if we have a larger food truck with a generator, it just doesn't work because it's overwhelming. The sound is overwhelming. So our friends at Eat Out Loud come all the time. Our friends at Maine Meats. So we've got like hot dogs, hamburgers, like sausage or peppers and that type of thing. Some Asian cuisine. And we've approached CJ at Soul 112. I just met with him Friday and hoping he could come up.
Great food over there.
Listen,
I was there a couple
he's
weeks
working on
ago.
his paperwork and stuff like that. So to be a vendor, you've got to get a Utica peddler's permit from the city of Utica, and for that you have to have your insurance and all that good stuff lined up. So just public service announcement. Everybody's like, "Can I just put food out here?" I'm like, "No."
His food is so good.
Yeah.
It's the first time I had it. It was a couple weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah, Stephanie brought me. She's like, "You gotta try it. You gotta try it." So we went
Oh my
over there,
God.
and oh my God, it was so
He's
delicious.
so cool. I asked him. Again, I love hip hop, so I was like, Soul 112. I was like, what's that named after? And it was the street he grew up in. I said he grew up in Manhattan, and I said, oh, it's not for room 112 where the players dwell. And he looked at me. He's like, who are you, weirdo, weird girl? So hip hop connects everybody nicely.
Oh, you crack me up. You crack me up.
But I love it. And the one other new one I think we're going to get is She Fancy Boards. She used to own the compound, and she's doing cool charcuterie things now. So she's working on like some kind of handheld little cool charcuterie treats.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, it'll be nice. And starting at 5:30 this year instead of 6, so people can plan to leave work and come right down and have dinner right there for them, listen to some great music, and get home by 8:30.
Yeah.
That's a good Monday night right there. It's a good way to start the week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And who says there's nothing to do in this town?
Oh my God! Don't make me smack you.
You're right.
You're kidding.
No, you don't hear that too much anymore.
You don't.
They don't. Notice that?
I do.
Yeah, it's good.
Man. We've been here through the thick and thin, huh?
Absolutely.
Man.
Absolutely. I remember the bumper sticker that said, "Last one to leave Utica, please turn off the lights."
Like,
Yeah,
who
it's-
did that?
Yeah, right. I want to know who did that.
I
one.
saw one not too long ago, actually maybe a few years ago now, and it said, I'd rather be in Utica, New York. I'm like, get the hell out of here. I was like rolling up on him at a light, like trying to take the picture. I'm like, I love that bumper sticker. So that was promising.
That's a good one too.
But that's wonderful.
Awesome, Michelle. What you do is wonderful, and we're so lucky to have you in our community. So
Oh, right
thank
back
you
at you,
for
friend.
doing this. So this is going to be really a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Coming up on Juneteenth, it starts all off.
Yeah,
the
I just
7th.
asked everybody to share it and bring a friend.
Yeah,
Like,
bring a
a
friend.
friend to have the experience. And
You're gonna
guarantee
have
that
fun.
You're absolutely gonna. It's a beautiful little park, and what better way to spend a summer night than
Yeah.
with us?
Well, thanks for taking the time today.
Thank you.
With me, and we'll see you out at Levitt Amp. Starts up on Juneteenth, and it's going to be a great time. So thank you so much.
Thank
I put
you.
the description of your Facebook page in this podcast, so if anybody's interested for more information, they could click on that link. I got to give a big shout out to EJA Moving Services. Joey's at 307 Utica Coffee. My attorney, Dave Longaretta. If you need some legal advice, give him a call today. Saranac Brewery. Check out Mo. 2 nights of Mo this weekend at the brewery. I'm looking forward to that. Concerts are back. They got a bunch of shows going on over there this year too. So make sure you check out our friends over at Saranac. Shout out to Ballsy, ballwatch.com. Use promo code members only for a 15% discount. And also Chilling with Rick. I'll be on Rick's show coming up this week. So make sure you check your local listings, as they say. And so you can watch us, me and Rick, go at it. I'm sure we're going to battle a little bit, but it'll be fun. It'll be a lot of fun. And also, of course, our new sponsor over here, Levitt Amp Music Series, a summer concert series at Copernic Park, downtown Utica, every Monday starting at 5:30.
You're the best.
Yes, you're the best. Thank you,
Thank
Michelle,
you.
for doing this. And everybody else, have yourself a good day later.